All right, everybody. Crypto Monday at San Juan. Let me get a round of applause. Let me get a round of applause. Let me get a round of applause. I cannot tell you guys this enough, man. I cannot be louder than 50 of y'all, man. I need some energy out of here. Me and Charlie, we leaving. We're going to Nehemiah's house. Crypto Mondays. Let me get a round of applause, man.
You can't make all these jokes, and I don't get the references. Whose house? What?
It doesn't matter. It just matters we're leaving. They don't want you to leave. That's the point. So, with that being said, you guys, I want to thank all you guys. And I want to thank our sponsor. This guy here is incredible. Mr. Sean King, thank you so much. Miss Cindy and Ms. Lauren, thank you guys so much for welcoming us to home. We had an amazing change of venues like 4 times in 10 minutes, and I'm amazed that all of you guys made it here. Shout out to everybody who didn't make it. We still love y'all. You guys will catch the replay. Shout out to Nico. Without Nico, this doesn't happen. I spot Nico in the restaurant in Wicked Lily. I'm like, oh my God, is that Nico? And it sure was. And I see Nico, I see Sean, and all of a sudden Sean's like, hey man, yeah, we can fit. Come to my place. So there you go. This is how that work. So with that being said, I gotta thank this brother right here for making it here, right fresh off his plane, man. Y'all give a round of applause for my guest, Mr. Charlie Shrem, y'all.
Thank you. And my wife and my mother-in-law are here too, right off the plane. We all came together.
I tell you what, thank you to Mama, thank you to Wifey. We love you guys. You guys are awesome. I thank you for letting me borrow him for a little bit. Me and 60 of my closest friends. And with that being said, man, I don't think I need to introduce this guy, but I'll try a little bit, So this guy right here, he's a legend in himself, right? And he's a little bit well known, variety of reasons. And basically the irony of this entire story, right, is this brother right here. I believe you had the first exchange, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
One of the first.
One of the first exchange in BitInstant. And what year was that, Mr. Sherm?
2011. 2011.
The irony of all of this, you guys, right, is that he literally sold this man his first Bitcoin in 2011. So this is how you go 6 degrees of separation. The irony of that is him and Sean, this is the first time they met tonight. So this is how close this world is, right? But so distant.
How would someone buy Bitcoin in 2011?
We're going to get to that, Charlie. Don't get there.
Easiest way.
Yeah, don't get to that. We'll get to that in a second. So why don't you just tell them a little bit more about how did you get to BitInstant? Because I'm sure people know from that point till now. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your background prior to BitInstant?
Yeah, so before BitInstant, I was, hey everyone, thanks for having me. I'm Charlie, and
we didn't know.
I was in college actually at the time. I was just in my junior year. It was over the summer of my junior year of college when I had first found out about Bitcoin. And I was actually just taping boxes and mailing packages out of my cousin's warehouse, and I had a little e-commerce site on the side back in the days when people didn't really have websites and buy things on the internet back in those days of 2010, 2011. But we started BitInstant, and I say it was my partner who was a guy that I never met on the Bitcoin Talk forum, still never met till today.
Kind of like Sean.
I just met Sean.
And all these weirdos back in 2011, what are you guys doing on the internet buying Bitcoin?
Honestly, the only reason I wanted to start BitInstant was because there was no way to get Bitcoin. There was no way to do it except for wiring money into this shady guy in Japan's personal bank account. And 99% of the world didn't want to do it because I was trying to go out and preach the gospel of Bitcoin. But how could I do that if people say, okay, you sold me, how do I get some? Well, there's this guy and he named his company after his cat, Tabane, Mt. Gox, and you could call him. No, but that was it. And then this other guy, Jared Kenna started a company, Trade Hill, and it was just another version of Mt. Gox, but it was his bank account in the US. So I was like, great, you can buy Bitcoin on this guy's site, you wire this guy money, and even just wiring money, and that whole process is such a pain in the butt, right, to buy just small amounts of Bitcoin. And of course, his bank accounts got frozen. So I met a guy on the forums, and he said, why don't we just make Bitcoin buying easier? And I said, that's brilliant. And he said, well, here's my PayPal address, send me some money and I'll do it. And it actually wasn't a scam. It's all scam. We actually started a whole company together, and we built it from that. That's how and we still never met.
I'll tell you what, that's an incredible story. And on the back end of that, it's from that, you was able to actually, figure out the problem, right, and create a solution with ultimately BitInstant. So why don't you tell us a little bit more about BitInstant? I'm sure everyone here and most of the people at home watching are very familiar with how exchanges operate today.
Yeah.
But how about how the exchanges operate when you were operating BitInstant?
So back then, the easiest, best, and fastest way to buy Bitcoin from the years 2011 until we shut down at the end of 2013 was you'd have to come to our website, you'd have to type in whether yours your Bitcoin address or email address, but most people didn't do that. Most people didn't actually buy Bitcoin. They were actually using us to fund their own exchange accounts on like Mt. Gox or one of the exchanges. So you'd come and you'd say, I have $500 in New York or in Florida or whatever, and you'd have to go to our site and fill out this thing and get a printed slip, and then you'd go to a CVS, Walgreens, Dwayne Reed, Walmart, 7-Eleven, any of these. We had like 1 million locations in the U.S., and the people didn't, at the tellers, they didn't know what they were doing. They were just getting these scanned barcodes on crumpled pieces of paper, and when they'd scan the barcode, their machine would say, collect $501 from this guy or this girl or whatever. And then our software would know to get that money in, and we'd send you the Bitcoin, and we'd get our money, a week or two later. But that's how BitInstant was. And most people would actually have to pick up this red phone. There was a red phone. If you ever go to CVS and send a MoneyGram or Western Union, there's like a red phone you have to pick up and talk to some random person. So there's the funny jokes. You'll see it on Twitter or Facebook every so often. It's like a picture of a red phone, and it says, you're an OG if you know what this is. So now you guys know what that red phone is. It was a very, very difficult thing to do and get, but we were like 30% of all the global volume around the world, which wasn't that much back then. We were able to, Bitcoin didn't really become a thing, I think, until 2013 was such a pivotal point.
That's when another guest of mine, another friend of our and a member of our tribe, Mr. Nick Spanos, decided to start his exchange.
Yeah.
So I'm sure you're familiar with Nick and his story there. So now you're in the BitInstant, right? Things are rolling along, and then kind of had a little issue along the way. And unfortunately, that little issue cost you, I would say you pretty much, like, this is a very common thing, unfortunately. It's like, when they say in the military, say the first man walks through the door, catches the bullets. I think you were probably that guy for the crypto industry, no?
In hindsight, I should have looked and said to myself, has anyone else gotten that first bullets yet? Because I don't want to be that person, and I don't know why I didn't. Because I probably wouldn't have went on TV like what we're doing now. We were having, it was like CBS, NBC, Fox every day, days on end, because Bitcoin was going crazy. And the only place you could physically manifest...
Talking to Mike.
The only places that you can physically manifest Bitcoin was this one place in New York City, which was a bar nightclub that we started, EVR, and we accepted Bitcoin. And so people would come in and spend 10,000 Bitcoin on a bottle of champagne. You'd have our invoices back then. It would be like at the end of every night, it would be like hundreds, if not thousands, of Bitcoin. It was actually where I met my wife. It was awesome. And those 2 years were such a pivotal point because just like how you San Juan, right? Everyone who comes through Puerto Rico is now such a pivotal a place in the crypto scene now, the global tech scene really, this place is. And now that everyone comes through, you have to come here, you give a talk, you meet everyone, you have dinners, it's a great community, right?
Come see me.
Come see you.
Right.
Back then, New York, our BitInstant office was that place. People would show up in the elevator and just like try to talk to us. And like, this is a place of business. So then we moved it to the nightclub, and then that became so many people, a lot of actually founders and CEOs of some of the companies that you guys use and know were buying their first Bitcoin at that nightclub or using the club, and they were buying drinks there. Some of them have asked me to not repeat some of the stories that happened there too. But those were some really...
I wouldn't know any stories about crypto guys in nightclubs.
And then Ethereum started, and that was a whole nother ball game in 2013 or whatever.
We happen to know a couple of guys, part of the Ethereum team and Ethereum marketing team, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, because until that point, I think until Ethereum was launched, Bitcoiners and crypto folk said to themselves, oh wait, this thing is so serious enough and so real that someone wants to make a copy of it called Ethereum, and there are enough people that are willing to do something else that's related to the blockchain. And in the beginning, there was hostility, but then I think it it gave Bitcoin its much needed validation, because before Ethereum, a lot of these altcoins were just like Feathercoin and Purecoin and Namecoin. Fun fact, Satoshi actually knew about Namecoin. So Satoshi knew about altcoins. No one really knows that story. Some stories are left untold, better left untold. By the way, I should plug everyone. I have a podcast called Untold Stories. You can listen to it at untoldstories.com. It's really, really great show.
I will not only listen to your show, I'll come on your show as a guest, and I would request the same in return, sir. At a different time. Maybe we'll discuss that later.
I'd love to have it. We had some great. Michael came on the show, and some other folks here came on the show, and it's been great.
Excellent. So, so you run into some trouble, unfortunately, and so you end up shutting down BitInstant, right? And then you end up taking a little sabbatical.
Yeah. March, I think it was like June 2000. I think it was June 2013 or March 2013 was the first time that the federal government gave any sort of guidance that even mentioned the word like Bitcoin, or they called it convertible virtual currency or something like that. That was the first time that the government. So that was a very pivotal moment too, because then every crypto company, every Bitcoin company, every Bitcoin person, every Bitcoin thing, every Bitcoin was just, we were in our own little bubble, in our own little world in a corner, like it was just existed on forums, and we were just experimenting, we were throwing shit at the wall, seeing what stuck, seeing what didn't, and we were just trying to reinvent the whole financial system. We were going to conferences in New Hampshire where people were saying, let's not end the Fed, let's transcend the Fed, It was amazing. Jeffrey Tucker was there, some of these brilliant minds. But at the same time, BitInstant, my company, we were facilitating all of these transactions of people buying and selling Bitcoin. And now we know that you can't do that without specific licenses that I didn't have. At the same time,
it doesn't seem like there were actually licenses to begin with, and then somehow or another they created laws that said like you need licenses now.
However you want to look at that, that's one thing. And at the same time, like a lot of people know that in the early days of Bitcoin, I don't know like what the exact number was, but there was a significant percentage of transactions that people were going and buying on places like Silk Road and things like that. And so, I had a customer, he came and he bought Bitcoin from BitInstant, and then I knew that he was actually going and reselling that on Silk Road. And now, if you're me and you're working at Coinbase, you have to file what's called a suspicious activity report. And I didn't do that. I actually never filed any. I didn't even know how to do any of those reports. But that's, that was my situation. I ended up serving a year and a half in federal prison for that.
And that was unfortunately tied to the Silk Road. And another guy who just took a bunch of bullets walking through the door. I imagine there's going to be some more bullets, right? Because nowadays we seem like there's going to be like a definite push for decentralized social media.
Yep.
So I'd imagine whoever that comes along, and this is weird because I'm trying to inspire my community to create it, but at the same time I'm telling you, you're probably going to get shot.
Well, look, no, I have no regrets. I have no regrets.
See that? You're going to get shot and you're not going to regret it. See that? You might live.
While prison was the worst situation that ever happened to me,
you might live though.
There were some amazing things that happened. I would have never met the people that I met. I would have never, been able to have the life that I have now if I never went to prison. And at the same time, the Bitcoin community, the crypto community completely embraced me back, so much so that it's been truly like, every time I get a call from someone who wants to do business with me, I'm like honored by, And so that's really been great. And it's been a great 4 or 5, 6, I don't know, I've been out for 4 or 5 years now. But I totally forgot even before then we started the Bitcoin Foundation, which was a whole nother ballgame. But I wanted to say one thing, because it's still important to just go out there and experiment and to try and to figure things out and to try to really, really change the world for the better. And even if you get caught up in trouble, I feel like if you're a good person at the end of the day, the world, karma, whatever you throw at the world, it comes back, and things always work out. So while in the depths and the throes of, getting getting arrested at the airport and being cuffed away to various booking places around New York, in those years, I probably looked at it as bad, but now I look at it and I said, how would my life wouldn't be as good as it is now if I did not go to prison.
I have to tell you, the irony of that is, this is the first time I met you, right? And the majority of what I've seen of you and your personality was probably prior to you going to prison. You're a much different person now, a much better
Thank you.
person. And give a round of applause.
Thank you.
So, you know what the irony of that is, and I'm gonna give you a quick story for this. I have a friend of mine who I'm not gonna name, who's very, very, very wealthy, very well off, and he wanted to move to Dorado. He still wants to move to Dorado. He lives in Dorado now, but he was telling me about a permanent house. Where does he want to live for a permanent house? So he's telling me, he's asking me because I'm Puerto Rican. He's like, where is it another place aside from Dorado that I can live? I'm like, bro, the kind of money that you have, you could purchase a place, any place on this island, and you could literally have like a castle wall around your place and armed security, and it wouldn't matter, and it'd be half the price of what you would pay in Dorado. And he's like, well, I want kids, and kids are in Dorado, and there's all kids everywhere. And I'm like, are you saying there's no kids in Puerto Rico? And he's like, no, there's kids there, but you know, and I'm like, okay, well, so let me ask you a question. And the funny part is he just finished showing me his phone, and he has 200,000 unread emails in his primary inbox.
Wow.
That's because he's so wealthy that he doesn't care about the people that are emailing him. Period. It's just the bottom line. So he understands that people are going to try to reach out to him all day long, and whenever he wants, he'll reach out to whoever he wants. So when I understood that, I'm telling him, look, your kids are obviously going to be extremely wealthy. They're going to get the best education on planet Earth regardless of where we live. The only job you have in this world is to not raise assholes.
Yeah.
Bottom line.
Yeah.
And what better way to make sure that doesn't happen, to make sure you mingle them with underprivileged kids? And he was like, well, that's a great idea, but like, how do we do that? I said, well, listen, most people think school is social interaction. The truth is it's not. In school, you're there to learn. Social interaction comes from activities. Arts, culture, music, dance, all the things that my people are rich in. Culture, right? So if you mingle your kids in these social classes, but yet you still send them to school online or whatever private school you want them to be, you're giving them the best of both worlds. And that's what happened to you. And all of a sudden now you're a better person because you were forced to interact with people who had way less than you, and they gave you different perspectives about life.
It's so true, because I'm embarrassed to say that before I went to prison, I couldn't mop a room. I didn't know how to sweep and mop in the way that you're supposed to do it, you know.
And I bet you cleans all outdoors now.
And one of the first weekends I was there, it was my first weekend there was a huge TV room. There's 9 TVs in there. And this is the church of the prison. You never mess with the TV room. TV room is kept clean, pristine, no fighting in the TV room. They're a decentralized government in the TV room. I could tell stories all day. Hi. Oh, my baby.
That's Nico, by the way. Nico's allowed at every shot. Leave Nico alone.
My baby, so cute.
Nico went to a better school than me. I'm sure Sean spent better money on his education than I did, sure, guaranteed.
And I didn't know how to mop, and I sat there mopping, and I was doing the sweeping first or second, and I was messing it all up, and every inmate was just watching and making fun of me, and it was so embarrassing.
Right.
A simple thing like mopping, and here, I'm there, have the audacity to try to teach people crypto. Let me take a step back for a few years and learn how to mop a freaking room before I start preaching the crypto gospel here.
Well, I want to tell you, and all of you, and this will be the first time I actually speak about this publicly. The majority of you know this. I also went to prison, and it also was the best thing that ever happened to me, and it's also the thing that changed my perspective in this world. And the truth is, I was a major asshole before I went to prison.
Yeah.
And when I was there is when I realized that I wasn't better than anyone else around me. And that in fact that it was something that I needed to adjust in my mindset to make sure that I realized and recognized, and I looked at it as God's way of humbling me and slowing me down in life, right? And in the process of doing so, like you said, while it was happening, by the way, I did a lot more time than you did. I did 10 years.
Oh my God.
So while it was happening, it was by far an incredibly difficult time, right? But then now when I look back, and it's been almost 8 years, I look back and number one, it went like, I'm sure you can tell anybody else, it's weird, but it went like a blink.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you remember every minute.
Yeah.
At the same time. So it's like, even though it was 10 years, it was gone in a minute, but at the same time, I remember so many lessons along the way that I learned that I would never learn anywhere else. That's actually where I became educated. I literally read a box full of books every month. By the way, I dropped out of school in the 7th grade. So literally, that's where I educated myself.
Wow.
And, like, that actually taught me, how to speak eloquently and educatively and not actually, just curse every other sentence, which I still do when I'm not in public. But however, actually, that's actually what drove me to be a better person all the way around the board. Prior to going to prison, I never had a job before. So, like, when I was in prison, all I did was I'd be around guys like you. In the event that a guy like you would end up in prison, I would have been your best friend. No one would have messed with you. You wouldn't have had to pay me. All you would have had to do was teach me. And that's all I did. I had 2 types of relationships with people. One was where I learned from them, and the other was where I was teaching.
That's funny, because I tutored a guy, and his name was Murder.
Yeah.
And, like, everyone became my friend, because I was, like, teaching
Yes.
him. Yeah, we were
Of
doing.
course.
He got his GED almost.
Listen, I actually helped over 300 people get their GED, by the way. But yeah, no,
Thank you. That's amazing. That deserves a round of applause. 'Cause
I actually had the second highest score.
that's amazing.
And I actually got my GED, by the way. And I got the second highest score in the state of Florida's history, by the way, on the GED exam. And so much so that literally I actually helped rewrite some of their curriculum. I actually founded some of the programs in prison system called STEM program, where they teach financial literacy.
Yeah. I understand program.
Yeah, well, I founded some of those
Oh,
some of those curriculums. The credit debt program, financial literacy, business administration, and I actually took some of those classes and then reached out to some of the people in my network and got a lot of support from different professors and ended up building the curriculum. And that's actually where I started my business school.
Yeah. So just remember, if there's any low that you think you're going, him and I were in khakis not many years ago.
Yeah, 100%.
Which was the worst situation.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't know about you, but I definitely, I had a bump in the road many, many, many times, man. I tell you what, like, I've been in rooms that are smaller than this in 120-degree heat with no AC and no fan and just literally people cooking you.
Yeah.
And it's literally like human torture. But at the same time, it was in that moments that A, I realized that how strong I was, and B, I realized I was here for a reason. So I also recognized that the opportunity that God gave me with giving me a second chance in my life was mine to take advantage of. And I wouldn't blame anybody but myself for whatever I didn't do before, and I would hold myself accountable moving forward for every aspect of my life. And that's how I ended up with all of you guys in my life. So, give me an applause, yeah. So with that being said, and honestly, I had no desire to speak about that. It somehow or another happened. But with that being said, it's okay. And Mr. Shrem, I want to know more about where you are today. What you got going on, sir?
Oh, today I'm actually in Puerto Rico.
I would have never guessed.
I'm in San Juan, actually. I'm not even here on a business trip.
Of course not.
I'm not even here on a vacation. I'm here for my wife's business.
You're not here for crypto either.
No, I'm not even here for crypto.
I know.
Courtney's going to be in a movie that's shooting in April, so their director, producer, stuff going on. I don't even know.
Let me get a round of applause for
I'm just
Courtney.
hanging out.
So no Courtney, no Nico, no you. I understand.
But what are we doing today? So basically, a year and a half ago, I started a podcast, which I feel like everyone's doing nowadays. But it's called Untold Stories, and the show did become my full-time job. It's amazing. I love doing it. The people that if you haven't listened to the show or watched the show, the people that we talk to are brilliant, and the things that come out are brilliant. I like to say, like, the brightest crayons on the box, the sharpest tools in the shed, and the coolest people in the room are coming on that show. So I hope you can come on. And I've been investing a bunch of different projects that I'm trying to, a little bit, some moonshots here and there, some other projects too, a few companies that.
So you got a couple Bitcoin left, couple.
Just one or two.
Yeah, one or two.
Actually, there was a huge boating accident.
A
huge boating accident.
Of course, what was I thinking? And I can't figure who he was on the boat
And
with.
all
I would
the
never
Bitcoin
guess.
was lost
I would
in the
never
boating
guess.
accident.
You and who else's Bitcoin
Ricardo,
was? I would never know.
And a lot of people. Yeah,
Right.
It was a big crypto voting.
There was
Every
a
January
big
we go
accident.
voting and we
all the ledgers
throw
fell
away
in the
our
ocean.
sins like
all
our
the
Bitcoin.
ledgers. All the ledgers in the ocean. Check them out in Culebra. Y'all go scuba diving. Just take one of the boats out there. Go treasure hunting.
Yeah, that's funny that you say that,
no.
place too. But yeah, living in Florida and just really we
We gotta get you out of Florida. Where in Florida are you?
No, so not far from here, Sarasota.
Okay, well, I lived in Florida before I
Where?
moved here.
Which part?
Oh,
Miami,
my
right?
mother lives in Kissimmee, but I used to live in Miami. I lived in Miami for 5 years. And I will tell you, flat out, and shout out to Miami, I love you guys.
Yeah,
Shout
but
out
it's
to Eric
different.
Inman.
Miami's like Miami. The west coast of Florida is completely. It's like Puerto Rico. It's like
No.
quiet.
The west coast of Florida
slow.
is like Dorado.
Well, I haven't been to Dorado.
Okay, yeah, you would like it. If you like Sarasota, you would like it.
It's just like clean and nice.
If you like Sarasota, you'll like it. It's really slow.
You haven't been to Sarasota. You haven't seen it.
I've been to Sarasota long before.
When
you
it was
have.
farmland, though, like 10 years ago.
Yeah, I used to go to Sarasota in like 1997.
There was no Sarasota in '97. It's like a new county.
Exactly.
No, it was.
Yeah.
But it's very
it was a
new.
cow town. They had a lot of cows there. They still do.
But I was just thinking about this the other day, and this is like, do you guys do this thing where like you'll have a topic in your head that you'll just think about for like weeks on end, and you'll just start like you'll be just in the grocery store parking lot, and you'll just randomly think about it. I was thinking about time, right? Time really is the most finite resource.
100%.
There's only 24 hours in the day, and figure like you're only awake 12 hours a day if you're lucky. So you spend half your life sleeping and in the bathroom or doing other stuff.
He doesn't know me.
Okay.
Anyone who knows me, tell
Yeah.
him 3 to 4 hours.
Wait, but
tops.
I'm not counting like all the other things that you have to like maintenance of your body that you can't get out of.
Yeah, he doesn't
But
know.
other than that, a lot like when I got out of jail, I said to myself, I don't want to like be one of those people who just wants to maximize every hour of the day and try to earn as much money as I can. I want to maximize 5 hours. I want to earn as much money as I can in 5-6 hours a day. And then by like 2 o'clock, you know, especially if you start 6, 7 a.m., you just want to have open and free time. Because obviously not everyone's able to do this, and you have to, obviously now with the remote world, everyone can choose their own schedules too. A lot of people are still choosing to maintain this like 9 to 5 schedule.
Right.
And I say like, change it up. First of all, read this book, The Gentleman in Moscow. Read it when I was in jail too. And he talks about, his grandfather had a clock that was only worked like twice a day, but he said that by noon, you shouldn't be looking at this clock because you'd be not around. You shouldn't be working anymore. And by midnight, you should be sleeping. That was his thesis on life. Now, I don't really follow the midnight sleeping thesis. Yeah. But time is so finite. So I think what I'm trying to do with myself and my family is I'm really trying to spend less time working and more time living.
Well, that's a work-life balance, brother. It's a work-life balance, and if you're in a place right now where you can absolutely do that, then do so. But I think what you're saying is right? So
even if you work full-time, which I still do, it's about the scheduling, and it's about maximizing those hours, and it's now we have opportunities where our bosses are not requiring us to like be sitting in those rooms all those 8 hours, where you can prove to people that, hey, you may be someone who works better in 160 minutes of uninterrupted work, can get more done in 6 hours of someone else. How many people can agree with me, right? In 1 hour. So why
now, everybody that raised their hand, are you actually doing that? Because most of the people I heard is no.
Exactly. So
right.
now we live in a world where we can do that, where we can make our own schedules, where we can do all that. And COVID was such a blessing for
everybody
so
that
many
said
people.
yes, they could do that. By the way, I can't afford you fucks. Thank you. Thank you. So
But that's my like whole
right.
thesis.
So yeah, no, I want to.
That's what you guys are all doing down here in Puerto Rico, though. I mean, you guys
we
are
don't
living
do
the best
anything.
lives. I
No
know.
one here has a job. You know how I know? No one here has a job. If any of them tell you you have a job, they're lying. And you know how I know? I do the events here, brother, and I just fill the schedule up every day.
That's
and it's
great.
just like
Wait, don't live in Caguas.
yeah, no one here has a job. If they tell you they have a, Luke Stokes might be the only guy who actually
Luke has a job. I know
He might
Luke has
be
a
the
job.
only guy here
Luke
who has
hustles.
an actual job. Everyone else. No, and I'm telling you, I'm amazed by that. So many people I know in Puerto Rico, I don't know what anybody does for a living, like actually works.
So then, what does everyone want to hear me talk about then? Like, what do we?
We're done, sir. I'm gonna have Mr. Sean King come on up here. You know what I mean? And he's gonna tell you a little bit about his story, and we're gonna get you a little bit more about your story and your story together. So let me get a round of applause while I switch mics with this brother. Go ahead. You know how to do a podcast, don't you?
Yeah.
So why don't you keep him busy while I switch mics?
Yes, Mr. Sean King, thank you.
Yeah, Charlie. Well, thank you, guys. And thank you. And welcome.
Get another round of applause for this dope-ass penthouse.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Nicest place ever.
It's truly our dream. I can't tell you what an honor it is to have Charlie in my house, literally in my house. Charlie is probably maybe the first names, believe it or not, that I ever stumbled across or ever learned about as a personality within crypto. And I was just looking back as I learned earlier today that Charlie was going to be in San Juan, and went from Pedro, and I went through and I searched my Gmail for like BitInstant. And I found the old confirmations.
I love it.
From December
Print
of
it.
2011 is when I bought my very first Bitcoin from Charlie's operation, and it's not an exaggeration to say that.
That wasn't an operation, but thanks for the flattery.
Yeah, okay. It felt like an operation. It was a cumbersome operation, but it felt like an operation.
But it worked.
And it got me the Bitcoin, and it's no exaggeration to say that that changed my life entirely. And I've followed Charlie all the way through, and I have admired him from a distance. I have a huge man crush on Charlie. He probably doesn't know it.
Thank you.
I know. You know how I know?
How do you know?
You're the most COVID-scared person I know, and I have 50 people here.
Yeah. Well, this is true.
Yes, this is true.
I said earlier, if it weren't for Charlie, none of you guys would be here.
Oh my God.
Oh, trust me, I know.
Yeah. So.
I've been here in a year, Charlie.
I'm honored. Thank you.
I'm envious of Charlie in a few ways, not the least of which is the beard. If I could only grow a beard like Charlie.
This is like 3 days. I just got a haircut on Monday.
Yeah, I know. This is like 3 years.
No, yours is good. It's good.
But anyway, welcome and thank you. And you really do need to move to Puerto Rico from Miami. Miami's great, or from Sarasota. Yeah, Sarasota's great.
I know, but we set roots down there.
Don't worry.
And then like.
We have dirt here.
Like I have political aspirations. My mother-in-law, I want to get her like on like some HOA boards and eventually maybe the mayor of Sarasota.
Yeah, there you go. Mayor of Sarasota.
I can't do it myself, so I'm gonna
in the house too. Who
some
knew?
political aspirations going on here. We're gonna take over the Scion of Sarasota. They're gonna call me one day.
Scion of Sarasota. All right.
Maybe not. I don't know.
We want you here. It's a quick flight.
Yeah,
So-
no, we love it here though.
What
And-
at this point we can maybe just kind of open it up a little bit. What questions does anybody have for me or for Charlie?
I want you to give Charlie a little bit more because the microphone is recording for the video. So
I can repeat the questions if
that
anybody
works.
wants to
So
ask
give me
it.
the mic. Give me the mic. I'll get some questions for Mr. Charlie and Mr. Sean. Anybody? Questions? Questions? Nobody has any questions?
Could you share a little bit about the A Geek in Prison series and just like how amazing that was for a lot of us to hear this? I mean, that was kind of the genesis of the stories, the untold stories. You started with your own untold story of what that was about, and I just being part of the Steam community as a block producer early on, like having you post those there was a really cool moment for our community, and I look forward to every single one of them. It was amazing.
Thank you. That's such a great question. And Steam, I feel, was one of the best working examples of like a decentralized social network we ever had. But it was an experiment in a thesis of like monetary and social policy, and we saw how that experiment didn't work out when you have too many people with too many like competing like wants and needs with financial interests. But that's another story for another day. But what was great about, I talk about how the crypto community embraced me, right? And it wasn't just like on Twitter and things like that. I didn't have, when I went into prison, I had to give up most of any assets that I had. And so, Courtney actually moved back. We were just dating at the time, and she moved back with Diane, and they worked at like a winery and stuff like that. And that's how I was able to get my dishwashing job when I got out. But and it sent me money, and dude, so many people in the crypto community sent me like Western Unions and sent me money and took care of me in there because you needed like money to survive in prison, right? Where do you go? So, so when I got out, the Steam community was so great because I had all these like stories, but it was more therapy for me. I wasn't trying to earn a living I didn't know that you could actually earn a living off of writing like that. So I just went on, and as you alluded to, I just started writing, and in that first post, the community who was already staking all of their tokens, decided to push so much of their staking tokens towards me. And I was like, whoa, I'm now earning money just by writing about my stories in prison. And so we titled it A Geek in Prison. And there were 10 parts to that story. You guys can Google A Geek in Prison, and they're all still up on Steam, and it was really great. And so it's funny that you brought that up, because I just started the book. And the book is, my agent has been trying to get to sell this book since 2014. That's how long this book is in. Some people start writing their book when they feel like the story. I started writing this book the day I got involved in Bitcoin in 2011. I was like, okay, mentally start writing this stuff down. So I started writing. I could promise the publisher a 1,000-page book, and I'm just going to call it The Untold History of Bitcoin. And I started it the other day, and literally the first line is, "You never forget the day you're released from prison." Every vivid detail. But it's not like a prison stories book, although there are, and the publishers want that, and a lot of people want that. But it's a story of really just the early days of Bitcoin and the people. And I can write whole chapter. I got a whole chapter on Michael, a whole chapter on half these people in this room, which is what I end up wanting to do. So that's what I'm going to be working on in 2021, actually. I'm excited.
Go ahead, Scott.
Quick question. So, Charlie, we know a lot of the story, how you created BitInstant, where everything kind of started, came from. One of my favorite things when I finally meet friends, and because of how it's probably changed a lot of people's lives, similar to the way Sean was saying, is, can you give us really what got you into Bitcoin in the first place? That process.
Wow.
That is a good question.
Yeah.
This guy here, man, you may get you a co-host one of these days.
For me, it was selfish. At the time, I was going through a very tumultuous time with my family, because I was what they call a what they call in the Jewish world as being like a wandering Jew, where oh, my baby, so cute, I can't deal with it. Sorry. And I wanted to just explore.
Is there anybody that doesn't like Nico? Anybody? Anybody?
I was looking for a community. I was kicked out of my family and that whole world. I was kicked out of that whole very Orthodox Jewish world. And I was wandering, looking for a community to join. And I just so happened to be moderating, because I was a loser. I was moderating IRC channels when I was 19 years old. Because that's what people did back then. It was just hang out in IRC rooms.
What is an IRC room?
Internet relay chat. What do you mean? I'm not that old. I'm 31.
Who said that? This guy? Oh, okay. Of course.
And I was searching, and I was members of these communities of people that were just these white hat or gray hat hackers and stuff like that.
Where's 28.8?
What?
Where's 28.8?
Yeah, exactly. And I even remember just hopping on a plane to Norway to spend a month at this guy's summer house that I met on the internet, and my parents were like, "Oh, I'm worried this guy's gonna put you in his dungeon or whatever." And I said, "It's better than being at home in your dungeon." But so I was looking for a community, and it wasn't just that. I distinctly remember using Bitcoin for the first time, and I feel like a lot of people remember when you first actually used it or did it, and that light bulb goes off in your head. You're like, oh, well, this is actually quite cool. Because at the time, if you look at what Bitcoin was, and my first foray into Bitcoin was just hanging out in an IRC chat room, and my friend Joe and a few other people were just hanging out in that room together, and some random person came into the room, and until today, I don't know who this person was. This was late 2010, and just started talking about this Bitcoin thing. And this was in the Evil Zone, or evilzone.org was the second, so Freenode was the biggest IRC network. Evilzone.org was the second, and it wasn't actually evil. It was just a bunch of kids calling themselves evil.
Oh, of course it was.
Yeah, there was no evilness going
Never.
on Evil Zone. But it's like a trampoline park, you know, a trampoline zone. It's Evil Zone. It's just stupid.
Right. Trampolines have
Someone started
trampolines.
talking about this Bitcoin thing, and this person came into this room, and the only message that happened was, "Hey, check out this. Did you guys hear about this Bitcoin thing? Did you guys hear about this Bitcoin thing?" 'Cause I think there was an article on Slashdot or something like that. So he posted that article. You hear about this Bitcoin thing, and it was so stupid because you just went to was it Bitcoin.org? It wasn't Bitcoin.org. I really think it was like BitcoinCore.org. It was something before Bitcoin.org. It was like, maybe it was Bitcoin.org. But you go on and you download the first iteration of the software, which is actually just called Bitcoin QT, Bitcoin-QT. And you download the software, and as soon as you turn it on, and so I'm in this IRC room, and the guy's talking about this Bitcoin thing. I'm like, let me check this thing out. Because I was playing with all software. You know, you'd get MySQL, you know, password cracking software. You download it and play it and you mess around. You mess around with everything back in those days, right? All software. So why not mess around with this Bitcoin software? And downloaded it up, and instantly you start mining. And because back then, this one piece of software was a miner, a node, and a wallet, all in one. There was no distinction. Satoshi actually designed Bitcoin that it was all going to be the same originally. And when you would turn on that software, and as long as you have to do some like weird port forwarding stuff, and tell me if I go on tangents here, because I go crazy. You have to do some like weird port forward. So like even out of the box, the software didn't even connect to the network the right way. I'm remembering now you have to do port forwarding. Do you remember which port it was? It was like port, I don't remember. It was 88 what?
I just heard 8.
Yeah, it was 82023 or something like that. I forgot what the port was. You have to like allow the port to allow connection, so you can just simply like connect to the network and propagate blocks. It was just like stupid how complicated it was back then. You download all this, right? And then you do all this stuff, and you get an address, and then you post it in the IRC room, and that's what I did. I posted in the IRC room, and then all of a sudden you get hundreds or thousands of Bitcoin. Someone would just send it to you. Satoshi was giving away Bitcoin back then. Gavin had a faucet up where he was just giving away Bitcoin for free. Bitcoin wasn't worth anything. It wasn't traded anywhere. It wasn't a thing to be traded for. And you asked why start BitInstant? Because I wanted Bitcoin. And I don't know why I wanted Bitcoin. I just felt like I wanted some, and the only way I could get it was to earn it. So I went on Craigslist, and my first job in Bitcoin was I went on Craigslist and I would buy JetBlue and American Airlines vouchers. And if you Google the oldest post by Yankee, which was my name, on the Bitcoin Talk forums, it was just me hustling like JetBlue vouchers on the Bitcoin Talk forums and the Bitcoin IRC for Bitcoin. Not even at a premium. I just wanted Bitcoin. There's no way to buy it. You couldn't buy it anywhere. No one wanted to like give it away. It was just like you were giving it away, but you also wanted to like, I wanted a community. And I wanted a place in that community. And my place in that community, I needed to be a pro-social member of that community. I needed to like contribute. Because in my community of Brooklyn, New York, of Jewish Brooklyn, I was a nobody. I was a loser. I wasn't contributing. I wasn't doing anything. I was just living life, which was a bad life. And so all of a sudden I could be not only a member of this community, but I started a company that was such an integral part of this Bitcoin thing. It just, my whole life changed at that moment. And not on purpose. It just happened. It just happened. And so that first light bulb with Bitcoin really, really took off when someone sent me that first Bitcoin. And then I went to someone else and I immediately sent that other person Bitcoin. And I remember saying, well, this is stupid. Like, who cares? Big deal. It's just like a downloadable version of PayPal. I literally remember saying those words. It's a downloadable version of PayPal. And PayPal was where everyone did everything back then. It's still today, but there was no Venmo or Cash App. It was all PayPal. You guys know. And I lost my train of thought.
Let
me help you.
Just a quick observation.
That's what it was. It was just the light bulb, the Bitcoin. You just send it, you get it, a downloadable version of PayPal, but there was no centralized place that was maintaining this ledger. You could literally see the ledger on your computer in real time, and you can see the other person's ledger in real time. So everyone is maintaining the same ledger. And immediately it clicked because I was helping this charity raise money through PayPal, and PayPal froze all their money for 180 days. PayPal was maintaining that ledger. And now with this Bitcoin thing, no one can reverse it, no one can freeze it. And all these Bitcoin people, all these crypto people, we were all on the fringes anyways. You know, we were all like, understood that we all knew that this concept of having a financial system or a downloadable version of PayPal that no one could control, we knew, we still know, you all know, that that would fundamentally change the world, and that's really what happened.
So I want to add on to that, and the irony of that is, hello. The irony of that is, for me, the aha moment was very similar. In 2013, right, when I was released, I'd already known about Bitcoin. Obviously, I think you made waves in prison systems.
I knew that.
Yeah, I heard about you way down in Florida, sir. So I'd heard about it, but unfortunately, the knowledge I had of it was that of criminal activity.
Yeah.
Right? And, being that I was looking to turn over a new leaf in life, I had no desire to get into Bitcoin. So the truth is I didn't get into Bitcoin early on, not because I didn't know about it, not because I didn't understand about it, but because I was actually worried that I'd end up getting locked up again because of you. And when the aha moment came for me was because of chargebacks. So ultimately, I ended up, getting involved in insurance sales. And one of the biggest problems I had with insurance sales that I had was chargebacks. So I was trying to figure out a solution for chargebacks. And ultimately, when a friend of mine came by and brought me some Bitcoin, and I had a car accident, and this is the story I normally tell people, but the truth is when you said that, it really hit me that that's what it was I was looking for a solution for chargebacks. So that's an incredible situation, and most people, that's not talked about enough, that Bitcoin transactions, you can't have a chargeback. I don't think people realize, if you've never run merchant processing, how easy it is for you as a merchant to have someone, a client, just take their money back from you after they pay you. They can do it for up to 6 months.
6 months later, yeah.
Yeah, so it's incredible. I don't care how they pay you, credit card, wire transfer, it doesn't matter. If you as a consumer have a valid complaint, or and a lot of times they're not even valid, you can have a chargeback, and you can actually have you as a merchant, you can lose your sale. And when you're dealing with a lot of sales that are over the phone, which the majority of the phone rooms in Miami, which is one of the reasons why I don't like Miami, but the majority of those places, they're selling products over the phone, you can't tell what's going on. So what people claim is that, we were scamming. And being that, they don't have a copy of the record, they don't need it, they just basically call their credit card number and say, hey, we were scammed, we was promised one thing when we received it, and then ultimately they charge back and you lose your money. And 9 times out of 10, if they have a product, they kept the product and they still took the charge back. But ultimately, the chargeback was the aha moment for me. And you, sir?
I was just going to make a quick observation before take more questions, and that is just how freaking random is life. I mean, life is just so random. I mean, hearing Charlie's story tonight is so random.
No coincidence, sir.
Cindy and I are having dinner down here at the Tryst at what's the
Wicked Lily. Shout out to Wicked Lily. We love you guys.
And all of a sudden, Pedro and Luke show up because they happen to notice Nico, and they're desperate for a venue, and so we say, okay, well, let's just do it at our place, and this comes together, and I get to meet Charlie. I mean, how freaking random
Michael gets all the credit
life.
for this.
Michael Turpin. Yeah, no, Michael
I
Turpin.
only told Michael and Yellow that I was coming to
Michael Turpin. I want to tell you guys, listen to me. This is another very important.
Michael's the reason crypto is even in Puerto Rico.
This is a fact.
The first person to do it.
Even better
Before
than that.
Brock even.
Even better than that, I was always told, and you probably don't know this, but I was always told to be careful if you helping me, that in the back end there will always be something that you will look for me. I will tell you that this man has been one of the most selfless people. He has never charged me for anything, ever. And when I promise you I sit with him probably once or twice a month and have lunch with him, I think I've maybe paid for lunch once. And ultimately, he helps me with anything. And anytime anyone comes to town, he's the first to let me know, literally. I mean, him and Brock, obviously Brock sends me a lot of people as well, but him as well. I don't care who it is. Whoever it is, he's like, hey, this person's coming to town. Have you had him on the show? No, okay, yeah, I'll send it down there.
Great community you guys
Yeah,
got.
no, it's awesome, and it's because of guys like him, honestly. So you're right. He spearheaded the community here, and he's embraced me with open arms, and he helps me tremendously along the way. So let me get a round of applause, Mr. Michael Turpin, the Godfather, the Don Corleone himself, the Don Corleone himself. So yeah, I'm grateful for guys like him in our life. Do we have any more questions? Anybody in the audience want any questions? Mr. Turpin.
Not a question, just because I got the community here. I'll probably put it on your site though, but I'm actually debating another San Juan OG in a different area, which is Harry Dent, who I Bruce Fenton's a huge fan of his, and I actually got him to the Satoshi Roundtable a few years ago. But he's written a lot of the sort of early books on he realized in the late 80s what was going to happen in the 90s going up, and then the 2008-09 crash he called almost to the day. But we disagree on Bitcoin, and so he got his Australian promoters, which he was making most of his money in Australia because apparently they don't have a lot of people of his level who will travel to Australia for a month at a time. So he gets booked solid. And now that he's, nobody's able to do things in person very much, he ended up doing a debate with Peter Schiff on gold. And apparently that did really well. So all of a sudden I get a call from his agent and says, hey, we're going to pay you to go and debate Harry on Bitcoin. And I said, fine. And I've been doing all these interviews. If you just Google our two names, you'll see all this press from Australia. We were actually a full page in the Sydney newspaper on Sunday. But you just go to greatbitcoindebate.com. They actually got the URL. And it's free. It's on Wednesday night.
That's awesome.
That's a beautiful thing.
You should
By
get
the
Peter
way,
Schiff to one of these things.
I was about to get there. So I've had Harry Dent. He's been a guest on our show, and he didn't want to debate with me. So tell him if you'd like, someone to give him a couple uppercuts. Let me know. But with that being said, Mr. Peter Schiff, who I happened to see at a gas station in Dorado a couple of months back when Bitcoin was at 40K. Peter, if you see me, I'm sure you do. Come on down. Come sit down and let's have a conversation about why it is you think that gold is such a better asset than Bitcoin, and I'm pretty confident we can think otherwise. But with that being said, anyone else? Questions? No one else? Let me get a round of applause for Mr. Charlie Shrem, man.
Thank you.